consciousness on this planet is higher than it's ever been. And so what we used to call the road less traveled is not as deserted anymore. Awakening is relatively easy. An awakening is God consciousness. And in these days, with this extremely high consciousness on the planet, awareness on the planet, people are having realizations. They are awakening more than ever before. And to me it seems like most literature ends at the awakening. It's like awaken and you're home safe, or awaken and that's kind of the end. There's not really that much literature on what's next. And so people today are experiencing very high consciousness. They're also having very deep realizations, and it's easy to get confused. It's easy to be confused because it's nothing that you ever expected it would be. At the same time, it's nothing. It's not what you read about, because you're very sure you have this awakened state, but you don't feel as free as you were told, or you don't feel as if suffering ended as you were told. And it's pretty much because it's much more accessible. You don't have to sit in a cave for decades meditating anymore, having the time to cultivate your ego or cultivate your discipline, or today you can pretty much ask for it and you awaken. That's a bit it sounds a bit easier than it is when I say put it that way, but there is a very high consciousness on this planet, and there's very little literature and very few teachings on what's next, what to do when you awaken and realize that it's not what you thought it would be. And there are some things that we have to be aware of, and especially on the number one misunderstanding that I recognize or see is the one that the ego will cease to exist when you awaken, and that's not true. In most cases the ego is still there, and it can be considered like a small child. Actually, I've seen these YouTube videos with small children, very, very bright, conscious children. They sound like sages. They sound like they're already totally awake when they enter this world, but still they're small children. And it's pretty much the same with our egos. When we wake up as an adult, we still have to consider ourselves or our egos as small children that has to be parented, had to be cultivated, has to grow up and become responsible grown-ups. It's not until the ego is parented that it is transcended. And we don't need a world with all these bright, conscious people with huge egos. We need a world with bright, conscious people who understand what awakening is about, and understand that they're here to live their life. They're here to become their unique, to become the unique being that they are born to be. That they're not here to be more than the other, that they're not here to be less. Because the ego so longs to be someone or to be something, to be special. And so when you awaken, it's a possibility, or it's very easy for the ego to feel as if it should be acknowledged for that awakening. It should be seen, it should be famous, it should be someone. And so the thing is, do you see through that illusion that you have to be special, that you are special because you're awake? Do you see through the illusion that you have to be someone, you have to be acknowledged because of it? Or do you realize that you have to attend as a loving parent to that ego and tell it that it's enough, that it's loved and held? And do you understand that you're here to live a life as a responsible human being, that you're here to create and to live in loving communities, taking care of the planet and people living here? And so I invite you to look at the ego as a child, and I invite you to become the responsible parent to that ego. And I invite you to realize that that the ego wants to be special, and that can be your trap. Because there are so many people out there like you, and very aware people, conscious people, enlightened people, awake people. So the next step is to land on your 2 feet with that state of consciousness, and also realize you are never that more conscious than you are in the present moment. You are never more awake than you are in the present moment, and also that even the most awake person can fall asleep at any moment. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again sometime. Have a great day.